Afternoon. It's August 17, 2024. We're at the Evansville Catholic Center and we have Robert Schaefer and his daughter Susan Schaefer Bassmeyer. Now Robert Schaefer's wife is Rose and their daughter's married to Mark Logal. Mark Logal was the son of Gene Logal and he's the nephew of Lenny Logal, and Lenny Logal was killed in Iwo Jima. We're doing a special thing on him at the Evansville Wartime Museum. And Robert and Rose, I've not seen them at our museum because it's too far for them to drive to there.
Not too far.
Well, then they're too busy. One of the things, and
That may be it, too busy.
And we got Lunch and Learns the first and third Thursday. It's a VFW 1114, and also it's right across the West Side Library. But then we're moved back to the museum. But we have a free lunch for Rose. You wouldn't have to spend any money. And it's a very good lunch. It's not a steak lunch, but it's a lunch. If you call in or email, we give you an email on that little sheet. And the next Thursday we're going to do is September 5th, and we're going to talk about anesthesia during the wars, all the wars, and say the development. I was going to have the head of the Anesthesia Museum from Chicago talk about Bill McNeese. He was married to Nancy Miller. Edgar Miller was her dad, and he was a fireman here in Evansville forever. Okay, Robert, we want to talk about your military experience. We want to first say what year you were born, where you went to grade school, where you went to high school, and then why you got in the military and when you got in the military. So first of all, when your birthday?
My birthday is August 26, 1938. 1935, excuse me. It's my wife's 38.
You were robbing the cradle, I know, and Robert, don't worry about that. So 35, so you can remember some World War II things in Evansville.
Oh yes, I remember.
And you born at Deaconess or St. Mary's or at home?
I was at St. Mary's, I think.
Who was your doctor birthed you?
I have no idea.
Okay, so that's 35, and then you go to what grade school and what high school?
I went to St. Joe Grade School there on the Garvin Street, Memorial High School.
My mother went there too. St. Joe was bigger than St. Ben's at that time. It had close to 800 students.
School, yes, it was.
Gigantic school, a very good school, green roof by Father Kelly. But my mother lived on Florida. Where'd you live?
We lived on North Weinbach, out there on Weinbach and Oak Hill, that area right there.
That was about out of the country, just
Out
about
of the
there.
country then, yes it was.
How'd you get to St. Joe? Did you, my dad give you a ride? You didn't walk or you take a bus?
Well, we caught a bus, we walked, we ran. Anyway, we get there and get home.
Good education, but Memorial was actually closer for you than St. Joe a little bit.
Well, I don't know, about the same distance, things.
So then you went to Memorial, graduated in 53.
Yes.
Tell us what service you got in and what you did, where you went to boot camp.
I went in the Army. I wasn't drafted, but I was going to be drafted. I was 19 years old. So we enlisted, a bunch of us, not a bunch of us, but 3 or 4 of us guys that couldn't find jobs or anything like that at that time, and I wasn't really interested in college. So we went into service, and we went into Fort Knox. I was at Fort Knox spent 3 months there in basic training, and I spent 3 months as our radio operator doing code and all of that. Then I was there another 3 months for being a communications chief. So after I got all through that, it was shipped to Fort Benning, Georgia.
That's big in tanks. They're the home of tanks.
And the home
and
tank.
Fort Knox too, so you were working with tanks
Yeah.
to some degree. Were you in a tank or just communications?
Was I up
In a tank?
in a tank?
Yeah.
Well, my mode of transportation when I was a communication chief was a personnel carrier. It wasn't actually a tank. It had tracks and all that, but it's a personnel carrier. So,
And then your Fort Benning. Tell us what you did at Fort Benning there, Robert.
what did I do at Fort Benning? Well, I was maintaining the communications, and I don't know how many tanks we had. About 12 tanks, I think, that we had to keep up communications and other things. I had my special little building there that I worked out of. And if anybody had a problem with their tank, I had to see if their radio was operating all right. And if I couldn't fix it, I had to take it to the battalion headquarters where they had more experience. And
Did the radios, you had a good radio in the tank so you could talk to each other when you're in battle? That happened in World War II with the Sherman tanks. You probably dealt with the tank after that. I don't know what tanks you dealt with, but little.
Well, this is back in the days of the tubes. We didn't have solid state like we do now.
Yes.
And a lot of times we had gunnery training, and those, I think we had 90 or 70 millimeter cannons on those things.
Yes.
And once they went off, it shake the heck out of them radios, and a lot of times you
Wouldn't work after that.
wouldn't work.
Yeah. Never thought of that, the radios, because they probably had 90s by then, 75s in the Shermans, but they had big guns.
Yeah.
You got any hearing left after all that?
Well, I actually, I actually didn't have to go out in the field with them. We were firing those. I had to stay back in to
Check the radio.
check the radios, yeah.
So how long you in Fort Benning before you got out, or did you go anywhere else besides Fort Benning?
Well, I was in Fort Benning's, I think for the reason I was doing what I was doing, we had a big war games called the Sagebrush.
Uh-huh.
It was back in 55 or 56 when we was at Fort Benning, and we went out to Fort Polk in
Louisiana.
Louisiana.
Yeah, I've been to Fort Polk. There's nothing there much.
Out there in the swamps.
Yeah.
And we spent 45 days out there without shelter beds or anything. You slept where you could. And,
There are a lot of moccasins, water moccasins, snakes there, everything.
well, we 45, we spent war games. The Russians were coming up through Florida, and all this, and we'd get in a convoy, and this convoy this is supposedly the biggest gathering of men and machinery since the Second World War.
Was that war game there at Fort
That
Polk?
war, yeah, it was a big deal. Yeah.
In 54, 55, something
It
like
was
that?
well, let's see, I got out in, it's probably 56 or 55, right in there. I can't remember what date it was, but we ran around down Louisiana, back and forth, and crossed the Red River and all this stuff. And
Red River's big in Louisiana, isn't that something?
It's big.
I never heard that statement, the biggest war game, most warriors around since World War II.
Look up on Facebook, not on Facebook, on your
What's
Google.
it-
Just Google it sometimes, and
What's it called?
it was
War games?
just called Sagebrush. You just put in Sagebrush and see what that says.
Okay.
I got a magazine at home that I brought back that tells some about it in there.
So then after that, when did you get out of the service? Did you get out of the service when? And did you go any other place besides there, Fort Polk? And
I got out of service. I spent the rest of the time back in Fort Benning. Well, I think we went from Fort Benning, we went down to, I can't even think of the fort now, down in Georgia on the coast down there. If you know what, they had gunnery training down there. I think we did that. But when I got out of service, I don't know what, came home looking for jobs, and went to the unemployment office, and they sent me to Channel 14. And I got a job at Channel 14 as a control board operator. So I worked at it for, I think it was in September. So first of the year that some representative from DeVry University, not university, but technical school up in Chicago came around and talked to us and going to school up there.
but did you see Marcia Yaki when you were at 14, or was she?
Oh yes, I had.
So you had to take care of
my
her.
rounds with Marcia.
Marcia, you told her what to do, and she didn't listen to you. But she was big then in the 50s. And then you went to DeFry University to get more training. And
Yes,
then,
I got my first-class radio telephone operator's license, which you needed back then to work in a television station as a operating the transmitters and that. So I got that, and I came back, and then I started working right away with Channel 7. So I worked with Channel 7 for
and Joe Salani in sports.
Joe Salani and all them.
Sports,
good
yeah,
fuck,
yeah.
I worked on, I think it was 13 years I worked at Channel 7.
And then where'd you go?
Well, after that, we got in some union problems.
Yeah.
All the cameramen and those that weren't really making good money, they thought they got in union, they was gonna get a big raise.
They didn't get it.
Never happened.
So there's problems there. Then when did you marry Rose, and what church did you go to? How did you find her?
How did I find Rose? I found Rose up at Lammy's Grove.
Lammy's Grove. Boy, everybody used to go up there. That closed in the 60s. I never did go there, but it closed in the late 60s.
She was in nurse's training at that time. And
at Deaconess or St. Mary's?
At St. Mary's.
St. Mary's. So she's getting trained in. Yeah. What year did she graduate? Because my mother-in-law graduated in Deaconess or St. Mary's training about 49. So Rose is behind.
Well, yeah, she was
about 50s.
She was. Yeah, I don't know.
We've got her year picture. We've done it all on the internet. Put all their graduate pictures. It's all on the internet. Her picture's there. If you go to www.browninggeons.org, it's on our site. Her senior picture in nursing there. Got every one of them from St. Mary's, everyone from Deaconess. So Rose is there, and then you met her at Lamey's, and then where'd you take her out? Did you take her out to dinner, or where'd you get married?
We got married at she was from Mount Carmel, Illinois, so we got married in the church over
It's St. Mary's, because my mother-in-law got married there. She got married in 1948.
Is that right? Or
you got married in about 58 or something.
Oh yeah, we got married. Got to think in 60. We got married in 60.
Yeah. You asked her, she would have mind known my mother-in-law was Bosnoggle and also Sassy. They went to St. Mary's nursing, but a long time ahead of her. But that's a great school, nursing. And then they all stayed at Moore Hall at U of E. And they used to take papers to all of them, and they'd get up at 4 in the morning. But your wife probably stayed at home. What was her maiden name? Was what?
Brothers.
And where'd she grow up? She go to Memorial?
No, she grew up in Mount Carmel.
That's right, Mount
Carmel.
Carmel. So she went to St. Mary's
over there. Then she came over here to go to St. Mary's nursing.
I see. Yeah, that's what Helen did too. That's the same thing.
And she was not Catholic at that time.
Yeah.
but she came over here and she's intertwined with all these Catholic people that were going to good.
So she became a fish eater too.
She decided she's going to become a Catholic. Yeah. So she did. And, we've been married, 64 years?
Wow, that's something. Well, I can't thank you enough for this, Susan, Robert, and we both going to have a great time. Now, if you see President Biden, I want you to tell him we want lower taxes and more services. So when you have lunch with him there, you tell him that.
Biden's going to do you any good now?
Yeah, he's not a lame duck president. That guy's going to get it all done. He's in charge of Congress. He's going to tell you what to do. So you tell him hello for us, okay, back here in Evansville.
Okay.
And that's a picture of him in his uniform right behind his head there over on the left side of him. So thank you very much. Thank you both, okay? Good.